Borno State Governor Zulum escapes deadly attack as UN decries killing of aid workers. About 2.3 million people are said to have been internally displaced from their homes since violent attacks by Boko Haram insurgents began around 2009. The UN estimates at the beginning of 2020 that about 8 million people in northeast Nigeria will require humanitarian assistance. But as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, that number has risen to about 10.5 million people that will be in dire need of humanitarian assistance in the region. The effort to extend humanitarian support to these 10 million people in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe has been hampered by attacks on humanitarian actors, the military, and other stakeholders in the effort to combat terrorism in Northeast. The attack on Borno State Governor's convoy underlies the risk and danger humanitarian actors and the military face in carrying out their work in providing support for the needy and defending their country from the onslaught of terrorism. Northeast Nigeria has undoubtedly been in the news in the last decade, but for all the wrong reasons. Boko Haram insurgency, herdsmen attacks, among several other violent conflicts and degrading statistics. Not too long ago, local governments in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe states were held captive by insurgents, and millions have been rendered homeless as a result of the activities of the Boko Haram insurgents in that area. One could safely opine that the security situation of the country was a huge factor that defined the 2015 general elections, which sent the former president Goodluck Ebele Jonathan packing and brought in General Muhammadu Buhari with the hope of an improved security in the country and a return of peace and tranquility to the troubled part of the country. While it is true in places like Adamawa, where all of the local governments annexed by insurgents have been recovered and the citizens return to their ancestral homes, it is, however, not true that most of the displaced persons and destroyed communities have returned to normalcy, as most communities destroyed still remain in ruins, and those who lost their livelihood in the heat of the insurgency are still struggling to pick up the pieces of their lives. While the activities of Boko Haram may have toned down in some places, but generally speaking, the security situation in northeast Nigeria has exacerbated as one form of evil has been replaced with another, as the killings still go on, now spreading to other parts of the country untouched by Boko Haram insurgents. That situation has deteriorated, leading to attacks on humanitarian actors, and now on the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, who on Wednesday, the 28th of July 2020, was attacked while on his way to Baga in Borno State. This volatile security situation has already taken a huge toll on the country, as Nigeria is said to have an estimated 30 million out-of-school children, and the northeast part of the country contributes to a larger chunk of that number as a result of the deadly insurgents. The United Nations estimates that about 10 million people are in dire need of humanitarian support in the northeast region, and efforts by government and humanitarian actors have continued to suffer a huge setback as a result of violent attacks by non-state armed groups. The overall picture of the security situation in the country is that of gloom, apprehension, and dismay, as pre-elections optimism of greater things to come is gradually dissipating into despair as gunmen have their fill of blood, while the military and politicians laboriously try to explain and clarify and explain again and again. Everywhere you look is a grotesque picture of carnage, devastation, and destruction by insurgents in the northeast and other parts of the country. That gloom was clearly demonstrated when Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Zulum narrowly escapes death after his convoy was ambushed by gunmen suspected to be members of the Boko Haram insurgents. His convoy came under heavy fire as the governor was on his way to Baga, one of the worst hit areas in the state, to distribute relief materials to internally internally displaced person. The governor was said to have been reliably informed by the military that the area was no longer under Boko Haram influence. But somehow, as the governor was on his way to Baga, he was attacked and most of the people in his entourage had to crawl on their knees to safety. One of the governor's spokesperson, his special advisor on media, Isa Gusau, said his principal embarked on a trip to Baga area of the state based on information provided by soldiers and that they have liberated the town from the hold of Boko Haram insurgents. The spokesman stressed that the soldiers before the trip had assured the governor, who was on a humanitarian mission to Baga, that the town was no longer under Boko Haram insurgents' control. He said the governor was heading to Baga from Mungunu because the soldiers told him they have liberated Baga from the control of Boko Haram insurgents. But along the way, the insurgents opened fire on the governor's convoy and everyone scampered for their lives. Gusau said that some of those in the convoy, including policemen, government officials, among others, sustained injuries in the process. These attacks have become the highlight of the security situation in the area, as after over a decade of insurgents' onslaught, millions of residents are still living in makeshift shelters and communities as military continue to lay claims to making good progress in the fight against insurgents.
It's not a problem at all.
The shooting that has happened this afternoon is between the Nigerian military, maybe, and our police and us.
No. We did the clearance, me and the sector commander. No. We saw where they were and where they were.
We have 1,181 soldiers.
They must have sneaked in.
75 officers inside. If we cannot go into Baga town.
No, going to Baga is not a problem. Going to Baga is not a problem.
No. Why is the commander?
Actually, we didn't know you came all the way back.
Why is the commander?
He's there. He said I should come and call you that.
Why should I go?
No, let's go, Your Excellency. You need to see it.
No,
because
I'm not seeing anything.
The impression you have.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not seeing anything. What happened is that the shooting that has happened this evening is not for Boko Haram.
There is.
If that is the case, then we are defeated.
No, we have cleared them.
1,181 soldiers and 75 officers. We cannot go into a town that has no more than 10 Boko Haram inside.
Your Excellency, there is no Boko Haram inside Baga town.
We remain grateful to all of you.
No, I mean,
the commitment is not there.
There's no Boko Haram inside the town. Huh? There is none. Just a pocket that infiltrated.
There's Boko Haram. If there's no Boko Haram, then where can we go in?
A pocket infiltrated, and we have cleared them. We have done that now. Right now, there's no. We saw their withdrawal track.
Let's go back. But the fact remains is that
I'm happy you.
No, I'm not happy. I'm never happy.
You have accepted that.
No, I'm happy. There is no Boko Haram inside the town.
No problem.
I haven't accepted.
As long as you just agree to go back, I'm sure it will be settled. You will see where they were.
I'm not going back to the town. No, and I'm not afraid.
No, it's not sure.
I can sleep if you want. I can sleep inside Baga town.
Yes, let's.
Nothing will happen to you. But the fact remains is that there is no Boko Haram inside Baga.
If you want to do that now,
if there are 10 people Boko Haram, what is there? We can clear them. 1,181 soldiers and 75 officers. We can't go inside Baga town.
I told you.
What happened?
If you give me 30 minutes, that Baga town is not a problem.
Then take over Baga.
We have taken over.
You can take over Baga so that our people can come back. As long as you are in my four. As long as you are in my form.
No, not in my form, Your Excellency. You saw where we are. We have taken over. We have.
On the 4th of July 2020, the United Nations released a statement condemning a violent attack that happened on the 2nd of that month, in which 2 civilians were killed, including a 5-year-old child. Several others were wounded, and a humanitarian helicopter was hit and sustained serious damage. Again, on the 22nd of July 2020, the United Nations missions in Nigeria released another statement condemning the killing of aid workers in Borno State. The humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Edward Kalun, said, "I am utterly shocked and horrified by the gruesome killing of some of our colleagues and partners by non-state armed groups in Borno State. My most heartfelt condolences go to their loved ones, family, friends, and co-workers. They were committed humanitarians who devoted their lives to helping vulnerable people and communities in an area heavily affected by violence. Our colleagues and partners were abducted while traveling on the main route connecting the northern Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. capital. Their safety and securing their safe release have been our highest priority since they were captured last month. I strongly condemn all violence targeting aid workers and the civilians they assist. I am also troubled by the number of illegal vehicular checkpoints. Listen to this. I am also troubled by the number of illegal vehicular checkpoints set up by non-state armed groups along main supply routes. These checkpoints disrupt the delivery of life-saving assistance and heighten the risk for civilians of being abducted, killed, or injured, with aid workers increasingly being singled out. He continued, this is tragically not the first killing of kidnapped aid workers. We have repeatedly called for such devastating fate and blatant violation of international humanitarian law to never happen again, and yet it does. Aid workers and the assistance they provide to the most vulnerable populations make the difference between life and death for entire communities. Nearly 8 million people were in need of urgent life-saving assistance in northeast Nigeria at the beginning of the year. Today, 10.6 million people need urgent support as conflict-affected states battle COVID-19 pandemic. At a time when humanitarian needs have reached unprecedented levels, it is unacceptable that those who are trying to help are being attacked and killed. This incident will not deter the international community from providing aid to millions of Nigerians who desperately need assistance in Northeast. The humanitarian community stands in solidarity with the people of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states who have suffered long years of conflict and now need protection against a deadly virus. First of all, we want to say thank you to the humanitarian community for not giving up on Nigeria, despite the difficult and near impossible situation under which they are forced to work. It is sad, however, to know that non-state armed groups have their own checkpoints. These killings have continued in Kaduna, Zamfara, Katsina, Taraba, and Adamawa, and Nigerians everywhere are worried that there seems to be no solution to it. Nigerians have continued to express displeasure and concern over the decaying security situation in the country, calling for the president to take action as military chiefs in the country insist the country is getting better. So have your say on this issue. Tell us what you think about the attack on the governor of Borno State after the military has assured him that there was no Boko Haram threats in that very particular area. To remember, sometimes President Muhammad Buhari told us that the Boko Haram has been technically defeated. But somehow the killings have continued, the attacks have continued, the military are even losing grip over this very particular issue, as some of the soldiers are reported to have put in letters to leave the force as a result of failure or lack of protection from the government they expect to protect them in battle fronts. Tell us what you think about this very particular issue. So what do you think? News Rendezvous Television would like to get your thoughts on this very particular story. So kindly drop your comments on our comment section and click like and subscribe to this very particular channel so that you will always be the first to know whenever we post any new story. Have a great day.